your skin and your body is a miracle, an actual miracle. And I personally believe it is a divine miracle. And to each his own. But whatever it is, it's an inexplicably and infinitely complex miracle or work of art or whatever you want to call it. Then you got to have faith in whatever it is that you own, this body that you inhabit, that it can do a lot for you. And the best way many times to treat the body is actually just give it simple nourishment, treat it simply, treat it with respect.
Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. This is a show that brings people from all over the world, very interesting people. Each one of them has their own story to tell, and each one of them is quite unique in how they approach their practice of life or the particular specialty that they're involved with. I have such a man with us today, and I must admit I know him for about a year and a half, and I've been very impressed with him, and I really wanted him to be on the show because I think he's a wonderful guy. He's a board-certified dermatologist. He was trained in Boston, spent some years in California practicing, 16 years clinical practices, and now he's got his own practice here in South Florida. And he's my doctor, Dr. Yuval Bibi. Dr. Bibi, welcome to our shore.
Thanks, Carl. Great to see you again. Thank you.
So you're a practicing dermatologist, and you practice in a way that's really unique because I've been to, obviously I'm an old man, I've had a lot of need for a dermatologist over the years. And typically when you go to a dermatologist in the past, they've always been happy to freeze things, biopsy things, cut things, and all the kind of things that I imagine you do when necessary. But you approach it somewhat differently. You have almost a holistic approach to skincare. And I think that's a very healthy difference. Can you tell us a little bit about your specialty in practical, individual, and evidence-based dermatology? Tell us about that. What do you do?
Sure, Carl, and thanks for the very generous introduction. So the way I practice medicine is I try to look at the skin and individually, and then at the human being, as in the human body and beyond, as a miracle. And I do believe firmly that it is a miracle. It's capable of a lot. It is capable of sustaining itself, regenerating itself, healing itself. And in many different instances, there has to be obviously some discretion there. But in a lot of instances, the problem has to do with us getting in the way, the individual getting in their own way and preventing their own skin from attending to the miracle, which is sustaining itself, reproducing whatever is needed to be reproduced and healing itself. So while I do all these things that you mentioned earlier, I mean, if there's a skin cancer to be diagnosed, or there is an unknown skin lesion that I need to clarify, or there is a skin condition that needs to be also elucidated, I will actually take the necessary steps to biopsy if needed, or do other studies, and obviously use a lot of the conventional medical tools that are available to me. But when I deal with skin, generally, my approach is, first of all, to have the patient in front of me, the human being in front of me, understand how miraculous their skin really is. And if there is an opportunity to show them how they are getting in their own way and damaging the skin with unnecessary practices or products, unnecessary twists and turns, and actually just get them to step away from what they're doing, looking at the mechanics of what they're doing and improving on that, and actually allowing the skin to work for them, I'm all for that. So specifically, I deal with a lot of people who have sensitive skin. And that is a very loaded term. The term sensitive skin is not clearly defined, but I'll do my best to really give a succinct definition. And the term sensitive skin really is about an individual's skin is more likely to get irritated in any number of ways and become inflamed much more easily than people with normal skin, people who don't have sensitive skin. That usually tells us something about that person's skin, and specifically, it tells us a lot about that person's skin barrier. The skin barrier is an element of the skin that's not too well defined, but if we are going to focus on it, these are the very upper layers of the skin that the skin creates and generates and maintains to help it protect itself from the outside elements, interact with the outside elements synergistically in many ways, draw elements from them and nourishment from them if necessary, and also fend for itself against outside elements, including irritants and other factors which can make the skin inflamed or sick. So the
Some of the
skin,
irritants he taught me about is how we shower. One of the
right?
things that he had to teach me is you don't have to go in scalding hot water with all these heavy chemical soaps with a brush that beats yourself silly. And he
That's
taught me how
correct.
to do things differently. Imagine at my
That's
age, I'm 85 years old, to learn differently at this point. He's a great teacher.
Thank you, Carl, and that's such a great point. So what we are doing in Western culture, in particular in the developed world, is we have a very pervasive culture of rituals regarding our skin, which is aimed to dysregulate and undermine the skin barrier in many different ways. And one of the things that you pointed to, and that's probably the major way of people's undermining their own skin barrier, is cleansing, what's called cleansing. Now, cleansing is a misnomer. The skin is not covered in dirt, contrary to what most people believe. The skin is not producing garbage. The skin is actually producing a highly sophisticated symphony of elements, sustaining them together, working in. I mean, it's mind boggling to think of the sophistication of the collaboration of the different elements working all together in amazing synergy and coordination to keep the skin intact and functioning and doing its business, which is taking care of itself without any help from you or from anybody else for that matter.
In spite
So
of
what we
us.
do, despite of our better efforts, yes. So what we do in our culture is we tend to bathing and cleansing. Bathing and cleansing consists of using water, which is by itself, by the way, a very abrasive element that can actually undermine the skin barrier on its own. Has actually some antibacterial properties. We've known that for many, many years, actually, as far as lab evidence is concerned, that water can actually decrease bacterial numbers on the skin by itself completely without need for soap or antibacterial elements or factors and ingredients. And then on top of the water, people take great care in treating their skin to an extra, very generous helping of detergents, soaps, shower gels, body washes, cleansers, and whatever packaging or branding the skincare manufacturers chose to put these products in. And that those products by design and by default undermine the skin barrier. By the way, the manufacturers of these products tell you that they're doing that, only they are very clever. And for the most part, they call it something which it is not in a very misleading way. So what we end up with is people saying, well, I'm just cleaning my skin, where in fact they're actually stripping away the upper layers of the skin barrier, undermining their skin immediately and by default. Now, if you have sensitive skin, by the way, which means that your skin is already more likely to get irritated than somebody with normal skin, suppose, you're actually undermining your skin even further and digging yourself deeper into the hole of sensitive skin. Now, that's just one category of products. Obviously, the heat of the temperature of the water in the shower makes a huge difference, like you alluded to. So when the hotter you get, actually, the more likely areas to scald the skin and to damage the skin further. And then there are the very, very sneaky abrasive practices, physically abrasive practices in particular. And we're talking about the scrubbing devices, the loofahs, the brushes, the washcloths, the exfoliating gloves, even someone's rubbing their hand like this in a circular motion on the skin that everybody seems to be doing nowadays. All these things are highly abrasive to the skin. And when you're already dealing with sensitive skin, you're just compounding that damage one element after the next and not improving your situation one iota. That's
Okay,
one of the
folks, so
things
let's realize something here. The skin, if I'm not mistaken, is the biggest organ in our body, and it's made to be resilient, to self-sustain, to regenerate itself. I remember when I was a kid, somebody told me you change your skin every 7 years or something, or was that a lizard? Maybe it wasn't. but 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 the point is, our skin is a living organism, and it's made by God to sustain this body of us. and very unique. And Dr. Bibi called it a miracle. And the more you think about it, it really is a miracle. You know, how it functions, and it protects us from heat and cold and keeps us dry and wet when we need it, and lets our pores open up for perspiration when we are overheated. All these magnificent things. And yet we don't really know much about it. We don't take care of it correctly. We go in there when we're young people, we go lather ourselves with too much oil, and we sit in the sunshine and burn crisp like bacon. It doesn't make any sense. But you're a very modern professional. You understand the balance of these things. You've written 2 books. I see them on the shelf there behind you. You're an author of 2 books. Name them for us. It'll be in the show notes, folks, where you can get these books anyway. But tell us a little bit about what you've written and why. Tell us a little bit about the things that you like to do in your practice that you bring to it uniquely. That's you, because you're a different person than anybody else. So you bring to your practice a uniqueness of who you are. Tell us about these things.
Thank you, Carl. So the books that I've written, the first one came out in 2023, and this is Six Skins, Skincare Made Simple. This is the blue and white beauty over there behind me on the shelf. That book was a revelatory book, a cutting edge book that I put together after a few years of investigating skincare culture. And a lot of what I found was that skincare culture really exists as almost an experiential theater where people go through motions that they purely and fully believe are fundamentally helpful and healthy for them to employ, but ultimately are not healthy in any way, shape, or form. In fact, a lot of them can be damaging to the skin, like the very pervasive cleansing culture that we just talked about. And all these things are actually promoted to the public as health practices. There's things that are wholly beneficial and everybody must engage in. And this is done in an extremely sophisticated manner through a lot of different mechanisms that prey on human psychology and human vices such as pride and vanity, and
Sure.
also a lot of fears that people live with, the fear of aging, the fear of falling out of favor, the fear of being unpopular, the fear of not being sexually attractive to partners, to people of the opposite sex. And these are very, very rudimentary human impulses that those promotional campaigns prey on. That book took all these mechanisms that skincare corporations or companies, they are behemoths, by the way, as far as financial strength and fortitude. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. The industry itself is probably in the hundreds of billions of dollars worth. And they take all these mechanisms and approaches to convince people, persuade them, even coerce them into using these products with very little benefit, if that, to their health and their general well-being. So that book investigated that culture and almost equated it. It's interesting, you were talking about a divine miracle, the skin being a divine miracle, which I fully believe it is. I don't think anything can ever explain the complexity of the skin to us mere mortals. I think it is a divine miracle. The skincare industry and skincare culture, I compared in that book to almost a religious cult of sorts, a secular cult where basically the idols or the idolatry is human impulses and human frailties, that the vulnerabilities that are preyed on by those people who promote those products. So that's Six Skin in a nutshell. And then the second book, which I was really happy about, I published last year. And this is a book that's called Baby Skincare. Now, imagine that the skincare industry has a lot of different avenues through which it can make money and get new customers in. And one of the most prolific industries in skincare is the baby skincare industry. Now, that's an industry that, as you can imagine, is first of all, we see it everywhere. It's very prevalent and pervasive. We have a lot of these products out there, and every new day I see new products that are aimed at children and babies. And there is a hook for these companies to use, and that is parents' utter desire and extreme pressure that's put on parents to be the best parents that they can be, to give their children the best that they can do, and they're the best that they can give. And there's such a pressure, especially in today's culture where everything is just immediately available to you, what the feedback is, and the public pressure. And you read all these comments on social media, you're ultimately very heavily influenced by all these psychological trigger points in the digital sphere and outside on the street and in family circles and amongst friends and in the school system and everywhere, basically, to purchase these products and use them. Where in fact, I make a few points in the book about the utter harm that a lot of these products cause. Again, the skin, by the way, I want to reiterate, the skin in the vast majority of people, I do mean with the few exceptions of people who have severe genetic defects in their skin and were severely injured through severe extensive burn, for example, the skin for the most part does exceptionally well entirely by itself without anybody's help. It needs no help from us whatsoever. In fact, the vast majority of the time when we step in and do something to help the skin along, we're actually undermining the skin's own work and taking away from ourselves. We're taxing our own skin, so to speak, with skincare. So that's what baby skincare is about.
So being a alta myself, an old man, I'm being deluged by people in the community and the advertising online now and on television. It's the new market seems to be to appeal to men like me to use cosmetics to eliminate lines and wrinkles and pouches.
Right.
I took a lot of years building these things. I'm pretty proud of them, actually. But that seems to be a whole new thing. You know, it's like ironic. This ever young phenomenon that you got to always be 11 years old. I don't understand that at all.
I think you're headed right on the head. You hit it right on the head. I think there's a great appeal to the fear of missing out on your youth, one's youth. That is not you necessarily. Anybody is susceptible to that, and many of us do not accept the fact that we are aging and the skin ages. But what's interesting is that a lot of these ploys that are put out there for people to buy and to consume that promise eternal youth or making your skin look younger or de-aging or anti-aging is the one of the most common terms used. A lot of these devices and products actually make the skin look older, and I'll explain. What does old skin look like? I mean, our prototypical older skin is not as capable of creating the skin barrier and sustaining it, which means it produces less oils. It is able to turn over less cells to cover the surface in a more efficient way. It's also decreasing its collagen content in the dermis, which is right underneath the upper layers of the skin. There's a layer of protein called the dermis, which is where the collagen is found, for example, that gives the skin a lot of its plump. So older skin is not as capable of doing that as younger skin for the same individual. Now, what a lot of these products do, skincare products generally, and some of the anti-aging products, is that they actually dry out the skin. They do it by abrading the skin barrier, undermining it. They do it by creating more inflammation on the skin. Inflammation does and can lead to higher turnover and degradation. Exactly. It can get counterproductive. What's interesting is that a lot of people create their aged skin by the virtue of their own skincare, and then they turn to anti-aging to try and undo what they just do, the damage that they created with the practice with the category of products that they just employed. So it's kind of a hamster wheel of sorts.
Yeah, that's a great expression.
Hamster wheel. Some of the best way of getting out of this, getting off this hamster wheel, off this merry-go-round, is actually leave your skin alone, let the skin do all the heavy lifting, and help it along if it falls on hard times, which, by the way, most of the time is the result of our own stupidity or gullibility, just basically stepping in and doing the wrong stuff to upset the skin and inflame it.
Right. You know, it's a major industry for women with their Botox and their cosmetics and all that stuff. And now I think they've recognized they only appealed to half of the population. So they're going to try and clone that kind of a commercial intent for men, specifically older men.
Yes.
And, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, it makes perfect sense. If your intention is to make more money, you need to carve out more niches as soon as you've saturated one. So yes, the men's skincare industry is growing and booming. There's another niche that I found out about in the past couple of years, and that's the teenage skincare industry. And I actually saw an uptick, an amazing increase in skincare, in teenage skincare consumption at the practice, where a few years back, teenagers did not actually use a whole lot of skincare. They probably used, soaps, deodorants, shampoos, all the regular cleansing nonsense, and maybe a cream or a moisturizer to boot if
Correctly.
things got
That's
dry.
yeah.
But nowadays, there's actually skincare products that are targeting teens by labeling themselves or branding themselves as made for teenagers. This is all the way only labeling. This is nonsensical. There's no such thing as an age appropriate skincare product. These are all a good skincare product would you be able to use across the board. There's
And
no
if
need to.
anything, God in his infinite wisdom gives younger people more resilience and ability than older people. So if they just left it alone, they'd probably be better off.
That's correct. That's exactly right. So the less you do to your skin, most of the time, the better off you are and the more resilient it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I like this man. I go in his office, I get educated even at my age, but he's an easy man to talk to, as you can tell. Also, I want to bring out here, that lovely painting behind him is his work of art because he's a multidisciplined artist. He does tremendous works of art. He's got them in his office, which is in South Florida. Let me mention that also. It's in Coral Spring. It'll all be in the show notes, how to reach him, where he is, how to get his book, all that stuff will be in the show notes. So tell us a little bit about your artwork, because that's it's an outlet for you. I can tell by the look of the work there. It's not just sketch drawings. You put effort into that, thought into that. Tell us about it.
Thank you, Carl. So the artwork, I've been doing art for many years, ever since I could probably crawl. I've been doing different forms of art. My major form of art is drawing and sketching. And what I've created in the past few years was a series of pieces that are called snake apples. And those are a take on the biblical story of the Garden of Eden. So they're a marriage of the serpent skin, the skin of the serpent wrapped around the apple, or which comes in place of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil from the story. And it's really designed to, first of all, catch the eye. Obviously, it is a pretty eye-catching piece. And it's designed to spark a conversation. First of all, what's the story about? And I think the story is about so many different levels to that story. It's just an amazingly fascinating story, and also designed to make people more curious, maybe get into some introspective conversation with whoever is viewing the piece with them, and act generally as a conversation piece. Now, this piece in particular that you're seeing behind you, and I did use real snake skin to create it. So what I did was I worked digitally to using an image of real snake skin. The original snake skin here was the African mamba, the black mamba, and obviously I colored it a certain way to make it more eye-catching, and I wrapped it around the apple and created this 3D look to it to make it almost pop off the wall, or out of the picture, which is a very special look. And I also created let's see if I can get that right from here. This thing right here is I think you're the world premiere of this piece on video. So this is a 3D stainless steel casting of the same concept. This is actually rattlesnake skin, diamondback rattlesnake, western diamondback rattlesnake skin wrapped around an apple, and this actually opens up to a receptacle here, which is an urn or a cosmetic jar, whatever it is, and that's one of the recent iterations of this concept, which I really enjoyed creating.
So you're not aware of this, but my wife is an artist as well, and we will discuss that the next time I come in the office. And
Please.
In addition to doing paintings and poems and writing beautiful music, she's a jewelry designer, and all of her jewelry is designed from a scripture from the Bible, Old and New Testament. And
That's
what
amazing.
she does is she creates the jewelry, and she calls it witness wear. So when people ask a question about it, she can discuss the scripture in the Bible, and it gives her a chance to witness to them. And how much of that is relevant in what you do there? Because you have a specific theme, and that's
Yes.
certainly biblical.
I love that concept. I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons why I create artwork, is to get people interested in one thing or another. And by the way, people may go off in some other tangent that I never imagined
Yeah.
about these things. But I think it's so lovely that she creates those pieces that make a reference to a scripture,
Right.
to a verse from the scripture, and get people going about that or talking about that. Because there's a lot to be discussed, and if they're talking about the scripture, they're obviously talking about something good and
Right.
something that grounds them in reality and in virtue. I think that's an amazing concept.
And we certainly need more of that in this world. There's no doubt about it. The morals and the society have shifted so much in a certain direction away from the recognition of why we're here as human beings, why this country is even here, how it was
Mm.
founded in the first place. What we
Yes.
do when we open doors to let anyone in to come and find a free place to live in America. Those things seem to be twisted and lost in our modern society. And those of us who have an opportunity should be talking about it, educating people, or at least opening their minds to think a little bit about it.
Mhm.
I think that's very important. I know you're a world traveler. You've been all over the world, as I have, and you've experienced different cultures and different people and different societies. So you're a man who understands that to whom much is given, much is expected. If you're given a blessing, you're given a thought and an intellect, you should share it with people. That's how we impact the world, one man reaching out to another. So tell us about your
Absolutely.
travels. Tell us who is Bibi when he's on the road.
Maybe I've been to some really interesting places, and some of my favorite places are Japan. I think the entire country has got
Yeah.
some phenomenal, interesting firepower as far as just being fascinating through its entire culture is just breathtaking. First of all, the Japanese attention to detail is mind-boggling. I mean, we are used to. I think American streets are beautiful. I love the American culture, obviously, but when you see a country like Japan and their attention to every detail as far as their design is concerned, even every simple manhole, a sewage manhole cover, is just designed like world class design,
Yeah.
which you're like, holy mackerel, this is just amazing. Any mom and pop shop has an awning on it that's also just breathtakingly designed. Every bit of anything that anybody does, there's so much attention to detail, and they're consumed in the work and creation, which is really fascinating. Another country that I really enjoyed visiting was Peru. From Lima, and I actually traveled down south to the Cusco region where Machu Picchu is, and
Uh,
then traveled back up to North Peru near the Amazon jungle to a town called Iquitos. And Peru actually is also another country where there's a lot of attention to detail in artwork and craft, amazing food, uh, exceptionally pleasant people, and very generous people, very generous hospitality. I've had a lot of stories in both Japan and Peru, but I've definitely enjoyed. I think every single country I've visited, I just reveled in the culture and in the country, and I was always happy, Carl, to come back home to the good old US of A, which you made a reference to earlier about being such a magnificent country. And
certainly is.
I got to tell you, I cannot get enough of, first of all, the United States, and I cannot get enough of Americans. The American people are really just the most generous people that I've ever come across. Seriously, just generous and welcoming people, and actually extremely intelligent as far as their approach to everything that came out of the country, as far as pop culture and engineering and other feats. I think we have a lot to show for in America. And so it's
I
a great
agree.
country to live in.
I just released a show this morning that I recorded last week, and it's talking about just that. We're celebrating the 250th anniversary. We had tremendous parades and excitement in the United States, but at the same time, almost immediately afterward, the nation was opened up to millions of people who came here, possibly for the first time, to celebrate the World Cup. And they
Mhm.
saw America and they met Americans and they wrote home and they wrote to their press and said, this is completely not what you told us about. This is
Right,
completely different. This is an embracing people and a loving country. And
right.
they don't say that overseas. I've unfortunately, I've experienced it many times. I used to travel with, have two different passports because of dual citizenship with
Mhm.
Italian, and many
Mhm.
times, not anymore, but in years gone by, especially when the Cold War was on, I had to travel with the Italian passport because you
Mhm.
get all kinds of rude reaction to you until they know you, and then it's completely different. Then
Of
it's
course,
completely different.
of
So
course.
I'm
It's very
happy
tough to
that you've had that
criticize.
opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a wonderful foundation for any of us. You know, we can be educated in all kinds of ways, but when we open ourselves to experience other people, other cultures, art forms, you know, I know like you talked about Japan. I was so impressed when I went to Japan the first, second, and third time that you know, their culture changed so much a couple of hundred years ago when they banned the samurai, and all those sword makers and warriors started making sculptures instead, and they created works of art and things of beauty that were not quite different than what they were doing because they created their swords and their armament with things of beauty anyway. Their helmets were magnificently beautiful in how they were created. But now they changed it from a war mentality to a beauty and a culture mentality, and it was
Mhm.
really beautiful.
Mm.
I
Yes.
agree with you. I think the Japanese people and the Japanese culture is fantastic. I'll never get over Kyoto. I've been there many, many times, and I'll never get over it. I think it's gorgeous, just
You're a
gorgeous.
great city. Great
Yeah,
city.
great city.
Absolutely.
So, where were you born? What do you do for fun? I mean, I know you're a traveler, you're a painter, you're a writer, but let's tell the people a little bit more about you.
Right. So, those of you who did not who missed that part of the beginning, so I was born in Jerusalem, Israel. I'm a Jerusalem native, and I grew up in Israel for many years before coming to the United States. And the I first of all, I do enjoy a lot of what I do for work. So, what I do for fun, I enjoy, whatever it is that I do. I find joy in whatever I do, and this is not a slogan or a catchphrase. I would do it if I didn't like it. I also like working on a variety of ventures. I developed and launched a skincare company in the past few years that I'm working very intensely to grow and develop and create more products. I'm the sole engineer of the products at this point, so we have two products out on the market, and those products are designed to help the skin, protect the skin, and help the skin recover under the strain of modern day skincare culture and modern life. So the products are exceptionally well put together, and they do really well, especially for people with sensitive skin. And I also enjoy playing sports. I play volleyball, beach volleyball, with a group of friends down here in South Florida, in
So
the
you go to the
Deerfield Beach.
volleyball on the beach in front of JB's restaurant
I
in
go, yeah,
Hallandale. I mean,
it's yeah,
in Deerfield.
in that area. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So
there's
we
all
play.
those beautiful courts there right on the beach.
Yes, we play those courts. I love the ocean, by the way. I do actually love going to the beach just to go to the beach, which is just
Yeah.
great. And I like the occasional great road trip, and I think there's a lot of places to travel, and all you need is a car and a little bit of imagination, and you're going to get to
The
some interesting
world is an
places.
oyster. Go enjoy it.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
agree with that. I agree with that. I so sadly I meet people. I've met many people in my life, and because I was in business for 65 years, so I've met lots of people all over the world, and they think that because they are building businesses or they're getting older, that they're restricted, that they can't be childlike and just to go wherever it go. I've taught my children years ago when I would take them to travel all over the world. I taught them a lesson. It was to me, it was very important. When you leave a hotel in the morning, you make one decision: do I turn left or do I turn right? And wherever God takes me that day, it's going to be a blessing. It's going to be an opportunity to enjoy something new. I lied. Also taught them something else. When you're in a new country and you want something to eat, you do not go on the main street where all you hear is in English being spoken. You go 3 or 4 blocks inland where you don't hear a word of English. You go to the front door and you listen. If you hear that language from that country inside there, go in. And if you smell garlic, even better. Go in faster.
That's a good tip. I love it.
That's
I love it. Absolutely.
years of experience.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Work for your
so we're
food.
coming down to the wire here. I'm going to allow you a few minutes to say anything you want to the people, and then I'll do a close.
All right. Well, so to those watching this episode, I just want you to know that your skin and your body is a miracle, an actual miracle. And I personally believe it is a divine miracle. And to each his own. But whatever it is, it's an inexplicably and infinitely complex miracle or work of art or whatever you want to call it. Then you got to have faith in whatever it is that you own, this body that you inhabit, that it can do a lot for you. And the best way many times to treat the body is actually just give it simple nourishment, treat it simply, treat it with respect, and really live by a very simple code of if it's simple and it helps the body do it. And if it's something you can't really articulate or explain to yourself, why the heck are you even doing it? I'd say probably your best bet is to stay away from it, save your money, buy yourself something nice. Eventually, it might even turn out to be a boat or a house with the amount of money that people spend on nonsense in this world. So, I mean, whatever it is that you need is that. And the other thing is, if you do fall in hard times and you do actually find yourself in a hole and things are not working out, always seek a professional who will actually, or someone who's knowledgeable and expertly in whatever problems you find yourself in, and help them dig you out of that hole with a helping hand, and take the expertise, take the coaching, and dig yourself out of that trouble and get yourself back on track.
Great advice. Great advice. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from a man who lives it, believes it, and is willing to share it. So I tell you all the time, you have your own story. Everybody has a unique story. Tell your story before it's too late. Share it with others, because if we don't share that experience, the younger generations will never learn from it. Share your story. Tell it before it's too late. And I'm going to tell you something else. What do I know? I'm this big fat old guy from Brooklyn. I don't know very much, but I know this. Get somebody you know today, get them in a big bear hug. Big bear hug. Tell them you love them. Tell them you love them. It might be the only time they hear those words. And I'm quite sure God loves them also. And he loves you. He certainly loves this guy. Look at him. I mean, he's got to love him. Look at that guy. And he loves me. And I know he does. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Dr. Bibi, it's been my pleasure to have you here with us today. And I am so happy to know you. And I know God loves you. I know it. Love you, brother.
Thanks, very kind words, Carl. Great to see you. God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye, y'all.